Hey, you guys, this is the Couplings Fire podcast. Here's a couple of things you might need to know, or maybe you just forgot. I'm Taylor, a volunteer firefighter and also a firewife to my favorite firefighter. Join me as I talk anything and everything fire related. I don't claim to be an expert, I just love to talk fire, and everything I say is my own opinion. My goal? To inspire anyone listening to take the steps to bettering their department, however they can. Let's get on to the episode. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Couplings Fire podcast. I am Taylor and I am here with a friend of mine, Logan Watts. Logan, I'm really excited to have you on the show today. We're going to be talking about some fun stuff. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
First of all, thanks for having me on, Taylor. You're doing some great things with this. It's always good when we can get more forms of media out to kind of get it into people's hands and hear different aspects. So you're kind of finding that niche area that isn't necessarily out there. So kudos to you for that. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Logan Watts. I'm a career firefighter paramedic in the city of Grandisle, Nebraska. And I also volunteer in my hometown of Osceola, Nebraska. So pretty much, I mean, I'm lucky enough to kind of be in the teaching world. I'm an instructor with Valor Fire Cadre. But before all of that, I'm a family guy. I got wife and two little kids that keep us running. So trying to find that balance and everything between, your family and your fire family and your fire service stuff is always a challenge. But it's, I can't sit here and tell you that I'm a professional at it and that I've got it all figured out, because we learn different stuff every single day when it comes to that. So, I'm just happy to be here.
I can't even imagine trying to learn how to be a parent. I don't know. Like it's going to come someday. I know it will. And it's just okay. So, at least, hearing from somebody else that they're still trying to learn how to do it.
Yeah. My daughter's going to be 4. So she's kind of at that stage where she's like 4 going on to 16. So she keeps me on my toes. She's a little sass pot. Yeah. She's a little sass pot. And then my son, he'll be 9 months here in a couple days. And he's giggly and he's a fun little guy. But you put those two together and I'm going to have some headaches in the future. So
stuff to look forward to. Well, we'll get into some family stuff at the end of the episode. There'll be some interesting takes on that. I think you'll have, hopefully.
Yeah. We'll try.
So I want to get into how I met you in the first place, just because for me, it was kind of interesting for me. So it was, on a couple episodes ago when I recorded it with Dave, I had mentioned that the first kind of training conference I went to outside of my own little department was the Les Lukert Fire Training. Wow, geez, Taylor, the Les Lukert Winter Conference. Wow. Is it a Monday? I know it's not a Monday, but it feels like a Monday.
It feels like it. They all feel like Mondays anymore.
So that was my first conference I went to, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know anything, and I just decided to get in on this hands-on training class, and I see a bunch of other people in there who are way too good at the fire service things taking this class, and it was awesome. And we ended up doing some of the skills portions of the class, and I do not know how this happened, got paired up with you a few times, and which it's hilarious because in my mind you were it was hilarious just watching you. Not hilarious, it was hilariously awesome watching you work. And it was hilarious for me because here's me who doesn't have a lot of hands-on skills and training yet and not a lot of fire experience getting paired up with you. Oh man, I don't know if there could have been a worse pair up at all, but
that's a little far-fetched. I want to go that far. But
the first experience I had though with it was when Dave threw that baby out the window.
God.
I thought, because you were standing right next to me, and I thought you had taken the class before or something. And I found out just a little while ago that you had not.
Yeah, that was my first time meeting Dave too.
Oh my goodness. So I think you had a ladder or something. You dropped it and you ran and you dove for that baby. And I'm just like, that is freaking awesome.
Well, I'm glad someone saw that, because I was hoping that was gonna be on Sports Center or something. But
well, it is in my brain, because like I can still see it because it was that big of an impact in my brain of like, what just happened?
Yeah.
So that was my first introduction to you, and then we went through the house searching and stuff just a little while later. And I remember you just like going forward, and at some point you're like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm back here somewhere. I don't know. You're just like
Yeah.
flying. I'm like, oh, I'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
But no, the whole rest of the weekend was really fun to spend with you and kind of learn and stuff like that. It's just
Yeah.
it was just really cool just getting that experience with you right off. So
Well, that's one of the coolest thing about, and I'm kind of speaking to the area, rural Nebraska, is when you have those conferences, Nebraska, there's not a whole lot of hands-on training conferences. So when you get those hands-on training conferences, you usually get a good group of people that kind of flock to them because, I mean, let's be honest, at the end of the day, the people that are at hands-on conferences, especially a hands-on conference in February, doing hands-on classes, they want to be there. People aren't forced to be there. So it's always cool for me to go to those because you get people on so many different levels of the spectrum, that might have a lot of time, in the field, in the profession. And then you have people that show up that, hey, I've never put an air pack on. And as an instructor, that's the best thing in the world because, man, you can focus on so many different things. And those people that come in and they come in as a clean slate, it's like, if you take your time with them, they may not know a whole lot about the fire service, but if you give them 10 minutes of undivided attention, they're going to take a whole lot away from that. So that's one of the coolest things about the instructor side. But also when I get the chance to go as a student, man, that's the best because then it's playtime. Then it's time to, it's time to go to work and get some reps in because that's what it's all about. So, but no, I do remember that first, when we first met, that conference and everything, and you just kind of you had this deer in the headlights look at one point in time, and it's like, hey, we got it. It's like let's go. It's like this is training. It's like if there's anywhere to mess up and anywhere, it's like this is it. It's like I've done plenty of things where you're searching in a blacked out house, and next thing you know, you're on your butt because you just ran into a wall head first because you didn't think it was going to be there. So I'd much rather do that on the training grounds than on on a real fire. But those are kind of lessons that you learn and you take away. So
yeah, no, that was also my first big introduction to a different type of searching too. Because we had talked about this before, but a lot of departments in Nebraska are still doing the holding of the angles searching and stuff like that. And we were talking before, you can still do a good search doing that method.
Yeah.
Right. Then there's so many different ways, like the fire services with anything. There's so many different ways to search.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's not, the one thing, and I've been lucky enough to get out and about, that's not just Nebraska. We're in our bubble and that's what we see, but you get out and that's everywhere. And one thing about it is when we teach, let's look at like the state level, when we're teaching firefighter 1, firefighter 2, when they're teaching a search, some people put so much stock into, firefighter 1 and firefighter 2, which don't get me wrong, they're great programs, but all that is meant to do is give you a basic understanding and a basic knowledge of certain things. Anything else in life, if we, you have your photography stuff, you're probably not taking pictures the same way that you first took pictures, right? You learn how to, exactly. But you learn how to evolve and you learn how to do things a little better. So we can't just sit here and always rely on the hand against the wall, tool on the ground, sweeping with our tool, guy on an ankle methods. We have to get outside of our comfort zone and realize, yes, homes that we're building nowadays, we're building with lighter weight construction. They burn hotter, they burn faster. So our window that we may have had in the 1980s to search a house and do a good job when it was good construction, good heavy materials, that window that might've been 30 minutes now is 3 minutes. And I know that sounds like a huge time difference. And some people are going to hear that and be like, well, you're full of shit, Logan. But look on, there's all sorts of studies. There's a great video out there that NFPA did with older ordinary construction materials and new lightweight construction materials and the flash point on it. And they study it. And the flash point on the new lightweight stuff is like 3 minutes and 40 some seconds compared to damn near 30 minutes on the other stuff. So we're fighting a different battle. So why are we not changing our tactics? But the whole, hand on the foot and that, it's great to get people in there into a dark environment when we're in a training to get them comfortable in that pack, get them moving. But man, it's just like anything. There's so many better ways to do it. And if you get those people in a right stance and allow them to move a little freely and more athletically, it puts them in a better spot, because I'm not using so much of all my upper body and my lower body muscles. And I'm able to see, I'm not just looking at this, 2 square foot area right in front of my face.
It's a little difficult to look straight up when you're in everything.
It is. But that comes back to us, as people in the fire service that want to help others. And it comes back to coming into this, and old saying, and I truly do believe this, is the day that you think that you know everything, the day that you think that you don't need to learn anymore, is the day that you need to get out. Right.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be a better way to do things. Whether we like to admit that or not, there's always going to be some more efficient ways to do things, but there's also a time when we need to revert back to the basics. So knowing everything on that spectrum is really important, and it just makes us a student of the craft. So
going off on already a rabbit hole here, just because of my brain. So for EMS, you have to do your continuing education units.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Why don't we have that for fire? You shouldn't just have just your firefighter 1 and firefighter 2. And I mean, I don't even have my firefighter 1 because they didn't require it.
Yep.
And a lot of departments don't. That doesn't mean I don't have the training. It's just I don't have the actual certification. But why don't they have some sort of, you have to have X amount of trainings per year or per 2 years to be in the fire service? And it'd be no different than some things they already have in place, like I said, for EMS out there. And it would keep people learning new things all the time.
Yep. Well, and I think we're seeing it and this is more or less speaking to like rural America, and we're seeing all these articles. So I'm going to talk about the EMS side of things real quick. You're seeing this all over the United States, right? We're having this giant shortage in EMS, and some of that is initial training, right? There's people out there that don't have, every Tuesday and Thursday 6 months to designate to that, especially, if it's going to be for volunteer, where they're not going to see any sort of compensation out of that. If that's the reason they're wanting to get into it.
So I'm going to break up really quick in your thought. I was that way with fire. That's why I never took a firefighter 1 class, because I could guarantee every Tuesday and Thursday I'd be free, because I'm shooting sports.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, go on.
and to that point, we're seeing this shift in EMS now. Okay. So everything used to be in person, right? When I did my EMT class, we were every Tuesday night from 6 to 10 or 6 to 9:30. It was like 3.5 hours every Tuesday night from pretty much the first week in January. And then I had my national registry. I tested, I had it in hand on my birthday. And that was July 12th. So that's 7 months every Tuesday. Dang. And granted, this was before I had kids and, didn't have all these other things. But I had people in my class that started it that had kids that they ended up having to drop out of it. I'm not saying that we need to shorten that down and make the training less, because that's not what we need. We don't need that. But as we move forward with technology era, there's ways to put this stuff online to do we're sitting here talking right now. 15 years ago, this wouldn't have been able to happen. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know if too many people know this. So I'm a nationally registered paramedic. When I did my paramedic course, I did it through, it's now called School of EMS in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And it was 40 weeks and it was about 75% web-based. So all of my classes, everything there was on the web. Each week I had modules that I had to work through. I had instructors that, we'd talk face-to-face like you and I are talking right now. Everything was on the web. And then three times, I went up to Sioux Falls for 5 days, a week at a time. And you worked long days. You worked 12-hour days for 5 days, and you did all your skill checkoffs. You did all your scenario stuff. And then on top of that, when I was back home, I had ride time hours that I had to do. I had hospital hours I had to do. I had my preceptors that had to continually make sure that I was meeting all these skill levels and goals. So kind of fast forwarding to the question that you asked, if we can do that in EMS, why can't we do that with our firefighter 1 stuff and all that? I know we can't do the skills over, online, but a lot of that stuff is we can do the presentations, we can do the studying, that kind of stuff. The information can be presented in a manner online. And let's take this 6-month firefighter 1 class and let's condense it down to, 3 months, and let's meet on like weekend,
Even if you
let's meet
did,
for 8 hours, 2 weekends out of the month, and let's knock out those skills. Because like I said, it's Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2 are baseline firefighting. I mean, you're not going to learn anything there that is going to just absolutely blow your mind away. It's just giving you a good, stable ground to build off of. Because we got to have a good building, we got to have a good base to do that. But there's people out there that they can't take 3 hours a week to be away from their family to go do that kind of stuff. Especially most people that are going to be doing that are going to have full-time jobs where they're working 8 to 5. They come home and they're tired and they don't want to do that. So we have to adapt, and we have to move forward in this technology era and get some of this stuff online. But here's a big but. We cannot solely put everything online. It has to have a hands-on aspect to it, right?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
We just can't throw hours online and make electronic firefighters, because it doesn't work that way, right?
Well, I know this last 6-7 months that I've been off a department now. I've been doing as much online learning as I can to kind of supplement and keep up. But I know my hands-on skills are suffering and dwindling by each day. I know it's getting worse and worse and worse. And there's nothing you can do to replicate that.
No, and there's not. And there's, I can go and I can tie knots, I can do stuff like that. I can do basic skills in my house, but until I'm throwing a pack on, I'm working in an IDLH environment. I'm doing, I'm cutting holes, I'm searching, I'm removing victims, dummies and live victims and trainings. That's stuff that, I can see it on YouTube. I can watch it. I can kind of pick up mechanics of it, but until I get my hands on that, I don't know if I can do it or not. And one way that works great for me might not work well for you, but the only way we're going to find out what works well for you is if we get our hands on it and get doing some of those reps. But we can't do that online.
Yeah. Could you imagine the frustration of somebody watching online, perfect way of somebody else doing it over and over and over again. Then they try to go do it themselves finally when they get the chance, and they can't do it because they haven't been practicing the way that they need to be able to do it to work with their body.
Absolutely. And it comes down to a lot of things. It comes down to what's between our ears, right? Because there's a lot of things that if we have the wrong mindset, it'll block us. Mm-hmm. You see something, I can't do that. How do you know? I can't do something until I know I can't do it. And I've exhausted myself to the point where I'm going to get hurt from trying it. That's when I get to the point where it's like, well, I can't do this, but I don't say I can't do this task. I just say, I can't do this task this way. Let me figure out a different way to get this task done. Right. Yeah.
Or I can't do it yet.
Exactly.
But I will.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. It's the 10,000 rule, right? 10,000 hours to become a professional at it, or not professional. What's the word?
Expert? No.
Expert. Yeah.
Oh, it was, I don't know. Something like that. I'm not good with quotes. Yeah, I wish I was one of those people who could just grab here's this quote and here's exactly who said it. And
it's
not quite.
So we have to find that happy medium between the whole web-based thing and getting our hands on. I'm a big believer in put the initial information in a web-based, let the guys read through it on their own, because people learn differently. Some people like to go, we've all sat in a class where PowerPoint, click, click, click. Someone might have wanted that slide. Someone doesn't care about that slide. Yeah. So give it to them in a form that, hey, I can work my way through this. I have quizzes. I have a test that makes sure that I'm understanding the material. And then when we get together, let's not waste any time looking at a PowerPoint. Let's get out and get some reps in and figure out what I need to work on and what I don't need to work on. So that's kind of the whole rabbit hole thing there. But so we talked about the EMS hours.
Yeah.
The fire hours, one of the biggest issues is the governing body of it, right? EMS, we have DHHS, we have National Registry. We don't really have a nationwide governing body for fire. There's certain departments that follow NFPA. There's certain fire departments that follow OSHA. IFSTA's in there. So we don't have this across the board. National Registry has their skills, right? We don't have that necessarily in the fire service. I know that there's things out there that, yes, they're similar. IFSTA is pretty well accepted across the board, but we don't have across the nation, you have to take this test to become a certified firefighter. And in rural America, nine
It'd
times out of
almost be
10,
impossible, it sounds like.
it's
It
going to be damn
sucks.
near impossible. Yeah.
I mean,
So
I know there's plenty of towns that I've been to and been around and visited their stations while driving through or whatever. They might have 5 people who respond ever to
yeah,
anything.
yeah,
And those are just farmers that happen to be thinking
yeah,
that it's something needs done.
yeah.
Are you really going to get them to do this?
And that's where it comes into the other thing too. So, we talk about certifications. There's people out there that want the certifications. Obviously, in a career setting, certifications are a little more important, right? But that's also, at the end of the day, that's my job. My job is to make sure my certifications are up to date. My job is to stay up on my continuing education, because in the middle of the night, if you're in a class 1 city, or you're somewhere where you've got people that you're paying 24 hours to be there to be able to respond at a moment's notice. If I call the fire department at 3 a.m., there's no clue. I don't want 4 jackasses in a pickup truck showing up. I want, 4 tactical athletes ready to take on anything that they're going to throw at us. And that's kind of, for me, that's my job, my responsibility. So I have more time to designate to, those trainings, those certification hours, that kind of thing. Jumping over to the, the rural America, more or less volunteer side of things, we don't have all that time, right?
Mhm.
Like my fire department here that I'm on, we have a training night once a month, and it's tough to get people to that sometimes because life happens.
Yeah.
And you can't have trainings. Some volunteer departments do a great job of having trainings like every week around our area. And I don't know how it was where you were before, but that's just not feasible. You can't
we
ask
did
people
every week, but we definitely did not have everyone there.
Yeah.
But it did give people more opportunities to be able to show up more often,
Mm-hmm.
because if you only do once a month and they can't make that month, it's a whole 2 months between their practices that they're doing stuff.
Yep, exactly.
So it was just a give and take, like it is everywhere.
Yeah. But so when we're in those rural areas, we got to more or less focus our training when we have time, right? We got to focus. And so I've got, let's say I have 3 hours a month. So that's 3 hours a month. That's 36 hours a year. And that's if nothing gets screwed up. And that's 3 hours. So we're looking at 36 hours a year. In that 36 hours a year, what are some things that I need to be damn good at, that if the pager goes off, I can show up and I can be damn good at this. There might be some other things that lack, but as far as this goes, I can be damn good at that. And what are some of those things that we need to know how to do? Obviously, we need to know how to drive and pump trucks, because if no water comes out, fire doesn't go out. And we need to be good at searching and removing victims. Okay. So right there, life safety and property conservation. Those are 2 of the biggest things. So
It's
if
really
we can
funny.
kind of focus our areas into that when we have the time, you kind of have to do this hierarchy of what's more important, right?
Chris and I used to follow on our old department the Gordon Graham boxes that he does.
Yeah.
You have your high risk, high frequency, or the low
risk, high. Yeah. Or I know what you're talking.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we paid attention to the high risk or the high frequency.
Low frequency. Calls. Yeah. Low frequency, high risk type calls.
Yeah.
Those.
So we did the 2 opposite corners. So we did all of the high frequency. We made sure we were good at those.
Yep. Exactly.
Because you're going to them all the time, but you don't have to train on them so much, because you're gonna get a lot of training on the job as long as it's low risk. And then the high risk, low frequency was the next box that we ticked off, and like, this is the stuff we need to make sure we get done. And a lot of that for us was going to be structure fires. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff to do with structure fires, but that's where we were focusing our efforts on then.
Yeah. Well, and think about it. A structure fire is one of the, especially in rural America, a structure fire is one of those things where we have a lot of eggs in that basket, right? Yeah. Not only do we have to worry about, A, are there people inside of it, but B, that's their livelihood. That might be your neighbor. That there's a lot of stuff that goes on, but that's also something that we just can't more or less get lucky on, right? So sometimes with some of our other incidents, we can just get lucky, or we can just let time stabilize that incident. Because one thing we got to remember is, eventually all bleeding stops, all fires stop burning. But when we're in a structure fire, if we don't intervene early, things just going to keep growing, right? Fire grows fast. So we have to, the faster we intervene, the more property we save, right? So back to what do we need to focus on? We need to be efficient at pumping our trucks. We need to be efficient at getting a line in place and getting water on the fire, cooling that environment. So one of the big things, and I know you probably know this, but for the longest time up until, even a year ago, we preached, you can't, water damage. Don't open that bale until you see the seat of the fire. Now it's get that sucker open and cool your environment and, hit and move, flow as you go, put water on the fire. Oh, we have to put enough water that we're going to overcome the BTUs that fire is putting out. So water wins. Elkhart Brass has done an excellent job of putting out informational videos, doing all sorts of stuff to kind of reiterate that, hey, the only way that a fire is going to go out is if you put a lot of water on it. So water damage isn't going to matter if the house is toasted, right?
Mm-hmm.
They make vacuums, they make shop vacs. That's what, Paul Davis Restoration, all these companies are for.
Yeah.
So we can put water in a house and save the house. We can't not put water on it and burn the house down and then say, oh, we saved the house. So exactly. It's a double-edged sword with that kind of stuff, but I'd much rather have my stuff wet than burned. So we can dry stuff out. We can't unburn it.
I mean, all smoke is, unburned fuel, and the hotter it gets, the closer it gets to its combustion state. And
absolutely.
All the fun is to fire one stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So
I could go all day on that stuff, but
so when it comes to rural areas and searching, career or volunteer, whatever it is, a lot of times they're in a lot of the same boats. They don't always have a big staff that comes on. And even if you're in a rural area that is career, you may be relying on volunteers as well. It's just a whole gamut of everything. So yeah, with these rural departments and stuff, there are plenty of departments that don't do searching or don't prioritize the searching, like we were just talking about, that you need to prioritize these high risk, low frequency events that you're going to do. I guess, have you seen a commonality between why they don't do that, or just thinking behind it? Or
I think a lot of it comes down to, and this is just all my opinion, obviously, but a lot of it comes down to when you're in that rural setting where you might have a longer travel time to a fire, right? Things grow, stuff looks nasty. We get so sucked into this survivability profiling, right? If I pull up and all I see is the alpha side and I see fire out of all the windows on the alpha side, in my head, just immediately I'm like, well, there's the only thing that we can do is cool this and try and put it out. Until I do a 360 and I look at Bravo Charlie Delta and see what's going on back there, I can't truly make that assumption. So the whole, and this is a buddy of mine, Sean Duffy. If you guys have never listened to anything that he talks about, you need to, because you're missing out big time. Sean has a really good point, and he has a really good thing that he says that is pretty much survivability profiling is bullshit. And what he means by that is it's not my job to decide if someone can survive in there, right? It's God's job to survive, or whoever your higher being is to decide who's going to survive. And it's my job to search those areas that are searchable. So I got to put myself between the fire and my victim and get in there and do the job. We're wearing the PPE, they're not. So, but that also comes down to training and being comfortable in your PPE. The first time that you should be crawling a hall should not be the first time that you're ever on fire, right? We got to put some sweat equity in, and we got to do some training with our gear on, and we got to push ourselves to those limits to figure out, okay, if I get to this point, I know that I am not comfortable. But if I stay in this, this is my comfort zone, and then keep pushing and pushing and pushing yourself to where the uncomfortable becomes comfortable, because there's nothing comfortable about being in a hot ass hallway when you're fighting time, as far as you got fire moving and you're trying to clear as much as you can as fast as you can. So that's one of the biggest things, is it just comes down to your confidence, your training. But when you start, let's look at, I'll use my volunteer department, for instance, here. Okay. So let's say we get a structure fire, let's just say in town, we'll compare apples to apples here. We get one in town, and let's say it's pick a time of day.
Let's do 6 a.m.
Okay. So 6 a.m. So 6 a.m. we probably have people in town, right? Because people are probably getting ready for work, getting ready to leave for work. So best case scenario, let's say we get a fire. Okay. Let's wait 2 minutes. Someone realizes that there's a fire. We call 911. We take anywhere from the call time to dispatch, to the time they dispatch that out, let's say a minute to a minute and a half. And that's probably depending on where you're at, that's either on the slow side or on the fast side. So right there, we're 3.5 minutes into a fire. Okay. We tone it out. And let's say that first tone goes out. By the time you get dressed, get in your vehicle, drive to the fire station, you're 4 minutes. We'll say 3 minutes. We're going to go right down the line here, best case scenario for everything. So we're at close to 6-7 minutes at this point in time before we even get dressed. We get dressed, there's a minute. We get on the trucks. Depending if you have to let turn the trucks on, do I have to let the air pump up on it so my air brakes work, right? Do I have, just because my first guy runs through the door at the fire station 3 minutes in, do I have enough guys to take that truck, or is it just me? So very, very realistically, and this is no knock on anything, this is us. Very realistically, it may be 8 minutes before from the time that the first tone drops, or from the time the first tone drops to the time we have something going out the door, you're probably in that 7 to 8 minute range.
That is actually very common, because I know the other departments I've talked to and things, I think a lot of them do time somewhere between 8 and 12 minutes. They want to be out of the station. That is their time that they're usually out.
Yep. So just going by, and let's just go by what we talked about, the fire double in every 30 seconds. But 8 to 12 minutes, you're looking at a pretty substantial fire.
Yeah.
Now, this kind of ties into when we go and we just had fire prevention week. We talked to kids about closing their doors when they doze, closing doors like that. Is this fire going to stay as a room and contents because my doors closed, or, just the way that the house is built? Is it going to stay a room and contents, or is it going to move into a structure? Okay. Are we getting up into the ceiling? Are we running trusses? We run in attic space, that kind of thing. So we're at 8 minutes before we go out the door. And like I said, let's just say we're in town. We pull up and we set the parking brake, and it's been 2 minutes since we left. And then we have to stretch lines. We have to get water connection. We have to get a water source. So realistically, we're looking at 15 minutes from the start of the fire to us getting water on it, right? So right there, we'll just stop there. So 15 minutes to any sort of intervention. And that's not a knock on any volunteer department. That's a realistic thing, right? So where I work,
unless you have people stationed at the station, that is
exactly. So like, I'm lucky enough to be a career firefighter. Our goal on any incident is to be on scene in less than 4 minutes. So where our fire stations are, and we have apparatus placed, is strategically placed to where our goal is less than 4 minutes. And that's, let's say, same scenario. We notice we have a fire, might be 2 minutes in. We call dispatch, we're at 3 minutes. Dispatch tones us. We're out the door our goal is 60 seconds from initial tone. So we're out the door in 60 seconds. So we're at 4 minutes right there. We've got a 3 minute, we got 3 minutes of drive time. When we set the parking brake, we're at the 7.5, 8 minute mark right there. We've already knocked essentially half of that down. So there's the advantage of that, but also some of the other, some of the disadvantage that we have is we don't know the inside of the houses like we may know the inside of houses in a rural area, because there's houses that I go to where A, I have a language barrier, B, I have no clue. This house could be chopped up into apartments. I have very little information. Whereas if I'm in a rural area, I can kind of make up for some of that lost time by knowing, okay, this is Sally's house. I know that the kitchen is all the way to the back and to the left, and that's where the fire started, right? So there's just a couple different things that I can do that help there. But when you're comparing the whole people at the station to people not at the station, you're almost, and this is, like I said, everything is here is best case scenario. You're doubling your time, right? So you're at 7 minutes for water on the fire to 14, 15 minutes. And that's not taking in any human factor, right? We take a wrong turn. We dispatch information may be wrong. I mean, that happens. They're sitting looking at a computer screen. They're not, they're just going off of what a hysteric caller is saying. So there's a lot of different variables. So back to the question of why does it feel like some people don't prioritize a search, is because sometimes they feel like they cannot prioritize a search because conditions have changed so rapidly that it's like this big glaring issue. And okay, I need to focus on this issue before I do anything else. And sometimes in a rural setting, I know those people, right? I know Bob and I know Sally. And if we pull up and Bob, Sally, and the 3 kids are out, and I know Bob, Sally, and 3 kids are there, and I know them on a personal level, and they tell me, hey, everybody's out of the house, I'm gonna drop my guard a little bit and say, okay, they know who's home. They know they're in a different, a setting where you don't necessarily know that. Like I said, is this a chopped up apartment house? That I don't know if there's people in the basement. I don't know if there's anything there. So I have to kind of prioritize that a little different. But at the end of the day, whether you're looking at people in the station or people not in the station, at some point in time, we have to search, right?
Yeah.
Whether that be, we got to get water on the fire, because at the end of the day, that's the only way that it's going to solve the issues, right? Is if we put water on the fire, cool the environment. And even if we have victims inside, it's going to make it better for them as if we cool that. But that's where we kind of have to start looking at, if we have 4 guys pull up on a truck, or 5 guys, whatever your rural setting might be, splitting that crew and saying, hey, you 2 go fire attack, and you guys start VESing and targeting your search areas to bedrooms, areas of space where we're going to probably find people, and you have to kind of deploy different tactics. So you're definitely not comparing apples to apples with it. And it just comes down to you get out on the East Coast, and there's volunteer fire departments out there that they have people in quarters all the time. So and we don't necessarily have that luxury here.
I wish we did. That'd be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. But so it's when you're trying to compare, and there's so many different comparisons out there, when, people are saying, well, a career, a paid fire department is going to solve those issues. That's not true, because there's times where, I can speak to it, where there's times where we're out on a medical or something like that, and we may have 1 truck available. And if a fire tones up, they might have to drive all the way across town, and they might have a 15-minute travel time. There might be a time where you have everybody out on calls and something tones up and you have nobody available. And so you've got crews rushing to clear and do that. So you're not comparing apples to apples, but at the end of the day, we all have the same issue. And the issue is nobody out there has enough people to handle what can be thrown at us. So I don't know if I answered the question or not, but I kind of rambled there for a little bit.
That's all right. We're good. So yeah, you kind of you tackled like kind of the lack of personnel, lack of training.
Yeah.
We really didn't talk about the whole unsafe. Well, we kind of did, because with the fire growing too fast, and they get stuck on that. But so
the safety thing comes down to a couple things, though. It comes down to training, because obviously we're never going to feel safe if we haven't been in that environment before.
Yeah.
Okay. But that also is another thing, when we raise our hand and we take the oath, we're promising to protect those that can't protect themselves. So we're also issued thousands of dollars worth of PPE. So at the end of the day, we probably need to, sometimes take that oath a little more seriously and put ourselves in some not great situations. Nobody ever wants to do that, but that's what makes us firefighters, right? Nobody walked down to their local fire station and just said, you know what, I might do this. This sounds, this sounds like something I can do. There are people that do that, but when you start getting involved in it, when you start going to those outside conferences and you see how much passion there is in people, there's a switch that flips inside of you, and it's like, okay, I'm not here for me, I'm here for them. And that's the thing at the end of the day. Is doesn't matter if you're career, doesn't matter if you're volunteer, paid on call, whatever it be. At the end of the day, we're here as a whole for them. We're here for those that can't protect themselves, that can't get themselves out. One of my big things when I teach search is we preach in Fire Prevention Week. We put all this stock in Fire Prevention Week, right? Because it's fun. It's fun. It's fun to go out and talk to the kids. It's fun to, it's fun to get the trucks all shined up, take them out and show them. But what's one thing that we always tell the kids is we tell them, if you're going to bed, close your door before you sleep. We spend the National Fire Council spend a ton of money on the Close Before You Doze campaign. And we also tell them, if you get, if you're in a room and you put your hand to that door and it's hot, don't, sit there, we'll come for you. So if we're promising him that, we have to hold up that promise, because a scared shitless kid or a scared shitless mom is going to sit there and she's going to try and wait it out for the fire department to come. And if we pull up and we're like, nah, I don't have anybody that can go do that, we're not holding up our end of the bargain. And that's where things can kind of get a little hairy, and where things can start to get a bad name, because we see it all the time, right? We see articles that come out from fire engineering, from Firehouse, that after fire knockdown or something like that, investigators find a body or something like something along those
Happens all
lines.
the time.
And that's not a good look for us as a fire service. So now there are times where we physically cannot search a room. We can physically not search an area because it's overcome by fire. That's different, right?
Yeah.
But what we can do is we can cool that environment, and we can try and get in there as much as we can. And that's where like a secondary search comes in. So obviously our primary, we're going to hit all the areas that we can as fast as we can. The secondary search is more than likely going to come a little farther after incidents kind of stabilized, and we've dumped all those resources into it. We have a second where we can send a different crew in to do a little looking, and that's where we're going to be a little more in depth. Unfortunately, on our primary searches, we're going to miss people. That's the unfortunate truth about it is we miss people. That's why we tell kids, do not hide under your beds. Do not hide in closets. Get yourself on an exterior wall. If you hear us yelling, we're not here to harm you. We're here to help you. We do all this stuff on the front end as far as teaching and preaching. But if we're not willing to take that risk and go in and put ourselves between the issue and the solution and put ourselves in between, we're not holding up our end of the bargain.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to touch on there. Holy crap. Where do I want to go first? So with friends of mine, who I know very well, and I kind of want to touch on with them. They aren't involved in the fire service at all. They don't know this world. I wanted to get outsiders' views on things.
Yeah.
And of some things that I have either heard talked about or seen or just kind of out there in the fire world and stuff like that. And with the fact of some rural departments not wanting to go and search and things like that. And you talk to them and they are almost confused. I asked them, well, what would you expect? They're like, well, I would expect them to come and save my kid or come and save me or whatever it may be. And it's something that every department, every firefighter needs to know, that your community expects out of you, whether you expect to do that or not. They expect the same job to get done by everybody.
Yep. And that's kind of, we kind of talked about before. There's always this career versus volunteer thing, which I have zero clue why that is a thing or why it started. But at the end of the day, fire isn't gonna be like, I got a career fire department coming. I'm gonna do this a little different, right? Or I got a volunteer department. I'm gonna do this a little different. We fight the same fires. We fight it in different types of houses, different types of building construction, and that's just based on geographical area. Obviously, in Osceola, Nebraska, we don't have the same buildings that we have in Grand Island, Nebraska.
Yeah.
So things are a little different there, but house fires that we have here burn the same as house fires that we have there.
Exactly. The back end is definitely different how each is run between career and volunteer. And that's just the way it's going to be. But once you set foot on that truck, once you're in the apparatus bay in general, it should be the exact same.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And it comes down to, there's a couple different things. We've talked about the training aspect, because I'm paid and that's my full-time job. I fully expect myself to be training more than someone that is doing it out of the goodness of their heart and doing it for them. Granted, I'm 100% doing this because I love it. I'm not doing it for a paycheck. That's just a nice added bonus. I'm one of those lucky people that get to do it for that. But there's a fine line, right? There's a fine line that you have to tread lightly on it as far as the whole career versus volunteer thing. And like I said, it's not a thing, but there's people that make a big deal out of it, but we're all here for the same thing. At the end of the day, we're here for the same thing. You and I kind of talked about it. I feel, and I tell people this when we train all the time, is I feel that volunteers have advantages that careers don't. And that's knowing your community inside and out, right? Town of 900 people. I know who lives in that house. I know, their wife, I know the kids, I know everything about it. Grew up in the area. If there's something building construction wise, I know if there's been changes made to the house. You get into a city where you've got 60 to 100,000 people, things are a little different. Things can change overnight that you don't necessarily know about. So sometimes having that more personal relationship with things is a big advantage. And we talk about one thing that you said about like them not wanting to search. I don't think anybody never doesn't want to search, right? what I think it comes down to is, risk versus reward. Everybody kind of always does some sort of risk versus reward analysis.
It's a better way to put it.
And, sometimes if I look at it and I know who I have, and I know the guys that I have aren't capable of doing that, because volunteer fire department, we have, people from 18 years old to 75 years old. If I show up and I got 4 guys that are 75 years old, what can I do with these guys? Right. I've got a deck gun on my truck. I've got ground monitors. That's going to be my best plan of action. Right. But if I have some younger guys that are good, they've been training, they're going to have a little longer leash with things. So Yep. And I don't think, like I said, I don't think anybody ever chooses to say, no, we're not going to do that because I don't want to. I think it comes down to confidence, and it comes down to your training. And, sometimes people have training scars, right? There's times where we go and you train with people and they don't want to do something because they may have been trained in a different way where they felt like they were set up to fail. And that can really have a huge impact on you. The first search class I ever go do, they blindfold me and say, hey, search this whole house that you know nothing about. That sucks. I'm not going to be good at that. You could be the best damn firefighter in the world, the best guy in search of the world. But if you throw me into the first time I've ever done it, and you throw a blindfold over my face and say, hey, go figure it out, I'm going to get frustrated, and it's going to make me think this is absolutely awful. Because we're throwing them in the absolute worst case scenario right off the bat. We're not giving them a good foundation. We're not giving them, teaching them these things, like backing up to right-hand search, left-hand search. If you ever get overwhelmed, you find a wall, I came through a door. If I take a right-hand or left-hand search, eventually I'm going to come back to that door, right? So it's not necessarily that people don't want to. I think it just comes down to a confidence thing. And that's confidence. There's people on the volunteer side and career side that are confident in one thing, but not confident in the other. So, and search is one of those things. Search is it is a high risk, high reward thing. It's a beast. Right? Yep. It's, we're not just going to, if I get assigned to search, I'm not just going to be like, oh, cool, I'm searching. And I'm going to go through, that's not a go through the motions thing. That is get your ass in there, put yourself between the issue, put yourself between the problem and the solution, and figure it out. Use that brain that you have between your ears. So some of us have a brain.
Well, I hope most of us
not me most days.
Huh?
I said not me most days. I'm just kind of a dumb Neanderthal firefighter.
So what are your thoughts on like searching off the line or something for a department that doesn't have that many people to go inside?
Yeah. So that comes back to, at the end of the day, when we're searching, whether it's with a line, whether it's dry search, water can, what is going to make it better, right? The only thing that's going to make it better is if we put ourselves between the issue and the solution. And when I'm saying issue and the solution, let's say issue, seat of the fire, solution, outside, fresh air. So if I get myself between those two things, so I want to get as far into the seat as I can and start searching back, that's step one. But as far as searching off the line, one thing that we see when people are searching is, and you can probably agree with this, sometimes is we have this idea when we're searching, we need to drag a hose with us, and we need to drag a hose to each room. And when we train search, how do we train, right? You come in, and this is when we initially train search. Yeah. We come in and we go right or left, right? Yeah. And we slowly, if that's the case, where's the farthest or where's the last place that we're going to get to?
To the fire, yeah, to the seat.
To the seat, or depending on where the seat is, but it's the farthest point away from the house, or farthest point away from where we entered. So what we want to do is we want to get as deep into that structure that's as safe as possible. That, obviously we got a little risk associated with it, but we want to get as deep in, and we want to start searching out, because the right by the door, that's probably my best place right now. So I don't need to put that as priority. What I need to put as priority is what's going to burn in the next 30 seconds. What do I have to go check before I can't check it? Because if I'm doing a blind mice search and I first come in and I go into a kitchen, I might spend 3 minutes crawling on all fours, sweeping an axe with a hand on the wall, searching this kitchen. And in that 3 or 4 minutes, I might have lost the 2 back bedrooms. So we have to, know where our seat of our fire is. And that comes down to doing a 360 and then making sure that we understand, kind of building construction and how things burn, and getting in there and being quick with our primary. So it's searching off the line it's all the same thing, right? We're searching. The one thing I don't recommend, just because it slows you down, is dragging a hose line and going like into the room with that hose line and having a hose, having a hose line.
Dang, I didn't even think about doing that. That'd be a nightmare.
Yeah. But and it's all, if I can remain in voice contact with my crew, that's just as good as physical in my eyes, right? Because if I get in trouble and I'm in voice contact, I can say, hey, I need a little help over here, and they can come over and they can find me. But if I'm in physical contact, and we're talking, you brought up like the short staffed. Yeah. If I've only got 3 guys on that line, and let's think of a ranch style house. Every town has ranch style homes. And let's say a fire's in the back bedroom. So envision your ranch style house. We enter through the front. To my left is my kitchen, my garage, everything over there. To my right, I have a center hallway with bedrooms usually on either side and like a master at the end. If we had a fire in that master, if I'm going down there, we're going to stretch the line there. I can try and search that master if my fire involvement isn't enough. And then I can come back. I've got bedrooms on either side. I can split my crew off of that line. One takes that bedroom, the other takes that. And in the time that it took me to do, would have taken me to do 1 room with 2 people, I just did 2 rooms with, in 30 seconds. So, obviously you have to do what the fire gives you tactics wise and what you have for personnel. Sometimes we just can't afford to have enough people on to pull a line and then designate, hey, you guys are fire attack, you guys are search, you guys go to the roof and you ventilate. Sometimes we might pull up and we might have 3 people and with someone inside, and that's a risk versus benefit decision that we have to make. So it's awesome.
Not gonna lie, I learned some stuff in there because I've never thought too much about, like, honestly, with searching with the line. Yeah, I mean, I know with searching you start towards the seat or towards the inside, and you go backwards. Yeah. I don't know why my brain switched it the other way with searching with the line. I wonder if that's just because of the way I've always heard of it or been taught kind of thing. So it's interesting.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, you can kind of compare it to counting to 10, right? Yeah. If I'm working my way through the house, it's 1, 2, 3. I'm counting as I go up rather than just getting to 10 and then moving backwards. Mm-hmm. So if I have to search with a line, that line is there to protect me. It's not going to be doing a whole lot of good dragging behind me. Let's get that. Let's take precedent. Let's put a priority on getting that line to where it's going to help me. Yeah. And then let's search back. So if we're looking at a minute to stretch the line to where we need it to go, let's get that line in place. Let's get flowing water. Let's make our conditions better. And then let's search backwards. So
yeah, you are basically, you're not splitting your crew up, but you basically are at that point. You're getting it set up, and you're having someone, at least one person, stay with that line to be able to keep it and keep improving your conditions while you're sending off, hopefully, if not one person, but 2 people off your crew to go search the line, search everything on the way back.
Yeah. And a lot of that too comes down to is, so another big name in the industry, great guy. If you ever get a chance to listen to Kyle Romgus talk, he has a Cruel Intentions nozzle class that is just outstanding. His lecture is awesome, but he talks about nozzle weapon selection is what he calls it. So with your weapon selection, obviously we talked about we need more gallons on the fire to overcome it. So if we're running 100 gallons a minute, that's probably not going to, in today's fire, that's just kind of pissing on it, right? So I want to be able to have the right weapon selection. My target flow rate should be above 160 gallons a minute. So if I get that line stretched to the seat of the fire, and I might have to be flowing as I'm moving, making my conditions better as I move. But once I get there and we identify, okay, these are bedrooms, we need to search it. That nozzleman can sit on that line at that doorway. He's in a safe space and he can flow 160 gallons a minute and just flood the shit out of whatever, whatever that fire room is. And we can make conditions better. One big thing is everybody wants to do vertical ventilation. I'm a big, vertical ventilation is not a crime. It's a tactic, but there's times where we don't have people for that. Straight stream, we can take windows with that and we can start hydraulically ventilating. So there's ways that we can do things with short staff. Just because you get assigned to fire attack, if you are stretching your line in and you're fire attack and you come across a person, are you just going to totally ignore them, or what's your tactics from there? So searching with the line gets a bad name, but it's more or less the tactic of dragging that line as you search in. let's get that line in place and then let's search back from it. So
yeah, for a lot of smaller departments, I could see them more easily wanting to adopt that than just going a whole search off the line or search separately from the line instead. I could see them just being more open to the idea of that.
Well, and the thing about it is that's one thing that regardless of what you train on, right? And training, and unfortunately we live in this world where training and reality are two completely separate things. We're closing this gap. Like one of the things, I'll plug us for a second. One of the things that we do with Valor is we make sure that we close that gap, right? You've been to our classes. We make sure that our structure fire scenarios, our scenarios are very realistic. We make sure that we have good live fire, but we also make sure that it's safe for everybody. We have all the checks in place to make sure if something goes south, we can shut it down. We can put water on it. But in some training scenarios, when we're training with theatrical smoke, we're doing all this stuff, there's not that sense of urgency, right? It's if I mess up, it's not that big of a deal.
Exactly.
But like in a real world thing, if I'm, let's say I'm on a fire department that says, no, you'll absolutely never leave that line to search. If I stretch a line in and there's people in that house, and I know 90% of firefighters are this way, and we get water put on that fire, I'm going to tap the guy in front of me. Hey, you good? I'm going to go check these rooms. So that's just stuff that's going to happen. And when we sit and be honest with ourselves and say, yeah, that's going to happen. So let's just prepare for it and let's train that way. And we put this ego firefighting and this bullheaded stubbornness aside, we can make things a lot better for them and for us at the same point in time.
Yeah, water on the fire makes everything better, no matter what.
Yep, exactly.
Is there anything else you kind of want to touch on search? Anything?
Oh, I can.
That sounded so intelligent, by the way.
I can sit here and talk all day about it, but at the end of the day, it's the biggest takeaway that we need to have when we're searching is we need to know that we're not just checking off a box, right? It's not just a check box. We're searching with purpose and we're searching for them. They don't have that option to have all the PPE, to have, they pay their taxes. An outfitted firefighter, you're looking at over $10,000 in just gear. And that's not including training. Right. So we need to take that gear and everything that they gave us, and we need to put it to good use, and we need to put the training to good use. And if in their worst moment, we need to be at our best. So, we need to make sure that we prioritize putting ourselves between the problem and the solution and getting them out. Now, there's a whole nother thing with search that we don't talk about near enough. And, we talk search, oriented, right hand, left hand. But how are we dragging our victims? This is kind of my little.
That's a fun place to go.
This is kind of my my little soapbox that I like to stand on. And so I can talk to it from a paramedic standpoint and from a firefighter standpoint.
Yes, please.
So let's think about our victims, right? How do they teach us when we first learn as a firefighter? What's like the one way that they teach us to drag people?
Under the elbows.
Yep. Get them up.
Oh,
right?
Sorry. The armpits. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. Get them up. Get them up. Drag them.
They're all joints. Yep. Get them up. Stand them up. Walk backwards and drag. Right.
Yeah.
That works great on a slick truck bed floor or a truck bay floor. That works awesome. Doesn't work awesome when they're more than 185 pounds. I'm a relatively fit guy. When I grab Rescue Randy and try and stand him up, he kicks my ass. So why would I want to pick up all of the weight of this person and stand them up and use all the weight of myself to get them from the ground up? If you guys have ever been on EMS on a lift assist, they suck. Yeah, and let's just face it. This is Logan being mean, but let's just face it. A lot of America could probably use a little less cheeseburger and a few more salads right now. But so our patients are bigger. Why are we picking them up, putting all that stress on our body? And that's not even the most important thing. Why are we picking them up into the environment, right? If I'm standing straight up in a structure fire, I can't see shit. Where's my good visibility at?
And the heat skyrockets.
Yep. The heat, my good visibility is down low. So one thing that when I teach search, we spend a lot of time on drags and removals is I'm a big proponent of a feet first drag. Grab their feet. You can get their feet. You can stand up and bear the heat a little bit because we have the gear on, right? Or feet first drag where we're dragging them by the feet. Their head stays. If their head bops on the ground a little bit and they get a few nicks and bruises, I don't care. That's fine. I'd rather throw a 4x4 on the back of their head and take care of some bleeding that I can control, rather than standing them up into superheated gases. The next thing I know, if they're breathing, they're inhaling superheated gases. And this, when we burn airway, we can't fix a burnt airway.
Mm-hmm.
When we burn an airway, the time is ticking for us to get a tube down. And how many departments in this area have an ALS capability to have an intubation the second they come out the door?
Not many.
Not very many. So why are we standing our people up, bringing them up at the, putting all this stress on ourselves when we can learn different ways, different techniques to drag? Also, if we drag them feet first, one of the other things that we're doing, as long as we can get their butt up a little bit, we're taking less friction and we're able to drag. I can drag a relatively heavy person by their feet a long ways. And if I have two people, even better. I'm not a big one on like webbing drags and stuff like that. I just think it takes too much time. There's a couple different things that we teach as far as like a dirty drag. And I carry a prusik in my gear, a little prusik loop, corded loop.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You can use that. You can throw a quick girth hitch on feet and use it. But one thing that when you get a burn victim, for anybody that's ever dealt with rescuing someone who's severely burned, is just imagine putting dish soap all over yourself and not being able to grab. And when you're not being able to grab, you're just sloughing skin. So if we're doing all this stuff where we're trying to do like, wrist, or we're trying to pick them up and do extremity carries, drag them by the arms, it's not going to work very well. So we want to try and target those long bones and those joints and take care of, make mechanical advantages and drag our people in that way. So that's one thing. If you ever come out and take one of our classes, you get a little time spent on dragging some people around. And there's a difference between dragging dummies and dragging real people. And, I'm one instructor that when we're doing drags, I let people drag me all over. When we train at work, I have no problem with them dragging me downstairs or doing stuff like that, because that's the only way we can learn. So sometimes on our end, the bumps and bruises are worth it if if someone takes something away from it and they're able to make a grab and use that method. So
you get checked for concussions, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is like, so one of the things we talk about is like dragging downstairs. What's the one thing in the fire service we always talk about with stairs? Stairs are what? They're a chimney, right? Yeah. So why would we want to stand them up and walk backwards? When we get to stairs, just grab the feet and go. If their head bops on the way down, that's something that we can fix, right? We can fix, we can control bleeding. What we can't fix is if we burn their airway so damn bad that they can't breathe anymore. And quality of life goes down. Even if we do get them out and all of a sudden they have to have a tracheostomy and, the voice box and all that stuff, that sucks. And that's something that probably could have been prevented if we wouldn't have lifted them up into the superheated gases. So we need to, as a fire service as a whole, when we're doing search, when we're doing search training, we need to spend more time on how we're removing our victims, because as well as I do, a lot of times when you go and do a class, the dummies are light little dummies. When you find them, you just throw them under your arm and you go.
Exactly.
And I'll say it from an instructor standpoint, it sucks reloading and loading the 206-pound dummy. That sucks. But at the end of the day, and the students hate you when you do it, but are they going to learn more from struggling to get that 206-pound realistic dead weight dummy out, or are they going to learn more from picking up the little 18-pound, baby doll that you got at Dollar General? Yeah, we learn more in our struggles, right?
Oh,
so
definitely. The first time I did that, oh my goodness, we didn't have a rescue Randy at my department, and so the first time I ever drug anything, oh my goodness, it was a wake up call. And then every training I've gone to since, and it seems like they keep getting more realistic, or they keep getting heavier and stuff. It's like, well, at least it's progressing with me for it. But you start to start to learn it. And you're right. When you start getting those real people who will actually let you drag them and things, it's a whole different world.
Yeah. So a little background, I teach RIT and Firefighter Survival in my career department, and I also do it with Valor. And one of my things when we do that in a controlled environment is we utilize real people as much as we can. I don't like using Rescue Randy for down firefighters, because Rescue Randy's rigid. He's not, he can't relax his body. You know who that down firefighter normally is? It's usually me. It's usually me getting a face piece smashed against my face or something like that. But if I can be in that situation and make the training more realistic and make it better for them to where they understand, face piece changeovers, they understand drags, they understand, actually assessing for breathing, for that kind of stuff. we're far better off as a fire service. And it's harder to lift and move me when I'm not, I don't have a heavy plastic torso. If I'm playing unconscious and I'm just noodling all over, and I'm just noodling all over the place, it makes it a heck of a lot harder for them. So, and we're not out there to make things hard for guys. We're here to make things realistic, because I don't want this false sense of hope. If I rescue, do rescue Randy over and over and over again, and I always pick him up, throw him out the window, everything's good, we high five each other. And then the first time I go to drag a burn victim or someone in a house and they're just limp noodle, it is the most frustrating thing in the world. The first rescue I ever had was like 150-pound guy, and there was two of us trying to extremity carry him down the stairs. And it was like we were carrying a 300, it was like an elephant. It sucked.
Oh, geez.
And so when you go through that and then you start doing some other stuff and you start learning different things, body mechanic wise, and other things that we can do to make things better, it gives you a totally different outlook on rescue. So that's my little soapbox rant.
What, another rabbit trail? Because I don't know a lot about RIT. I really don't. So why would you take the time to switch a face mask? And I've learned it. But why would you take the time to do that instead of just getting them out of that atmosphere like a normal victim?
So one of the things when we talk about training RIT is it's just like anything, right? We're always training for worst case scenario. So something that would lead to me knowing, hey, I got to do a face piece changeover or something, is if that face piece is compromised to the point where it cannot positively put pressure into that mask to protect that firefighter, and I have a long drag, like let's say change of grade, if I have to come out of a basement, or I'm in a commercial structure where I might have to drag this person 200 feet. If I can do that face piece changeover in a safe environment. So one of the things we teach is we try not to do face piece changeovers in heavy smoke, IDLH. We want to try and if we can, we want to try and get to a safe spot, whether it be an off room or something like that, to where we can do a little better assessment. But sometimes we have to do that in those crappy scenarios. So we need to make sure that we're proficient at it. But my biggest thing with the RIT is we don't want to do a face piece changeover if it's going to delay our time of getting out significantly, right? Okay. Because we have our brain can go about 7 to 8 minutes without oxygen before we start, before stuff starts dying. So if I'm in a residential house and we're doing RIT and I've got a down firefighter that is just in a bedroom and he had some sort of medical issue, and I get to him and there's a window right there, I'm not going to mess with packaging him. I'm not going to mess with anything. We're going to take that window, we're going to tilt them out, and then hopefully my guys on the outside help, right? Mm-hmm. So the face piece changeover is one of those low frequency, high risk events that we need to be proficient at. So it's one of those things where some guys say, well, I'm never going to do a face piece changeover. It's like, that'd be great if you never do a face piece changeover. I hope I never have to do a face piece changeover, but it's like one of those things that I just talked about. Through repetition and confidence, if I do have to do that, it's just another bump in the road. So
it sounds like I need to take more RIT classes. So.
Yeah, and those are another one that are far and few between. It's hard to get that. So stay tuned. We'll put a RIT class out.
Yes. I'm excited. Okay. Since we're talking about classes anyways, I was going to wait till the end to plug it, but let's go ahead and talk about the class that you guys are having over in Osceola.
Yeah. So November 13th. Let me double check that date.
I really hope this comes out before then, but if it doesn't, you guys have kind of hear what happened.
Yeah. So Saturday, November 13th, for those in this area and kind of all over the area, we're going to be doing with Valor Fire Training. We're going to be doing a short staff fireground class. So one of the things that we do when we identify kind of classes that we want to teach, obviously we teach to what we know. And one of the things is we've talked about it all day, right? The whole time we've talked on here is everybody is running short. Whether you're running short, your definition of running short might be different. My definition of running short, they might be two completely different things. But at the end of the day, we all agree that we could use more people in the fireground. So how can we maximize the little amount of people that we have? What can we do to maximize what we can get out of them on a fireground? Because at the end of the day, on the fireground, who shows up is who shows up. We can't, that's not the time where we go to city councils and we say, hey, we need more people. When the tones drop and there's a fire, who you have, the boots on the ground is the boots that you have on the ground. So what can we do to make that better? And the simple answer to that is reps. So that's what this class is going to be all about. We're going to get a lot of reps in with short staff things. We're going to hopefully kind of show some different tips and tricks to make things easier on people, some different scenario based stuff, some different decision-making topics that we're going to bring up. So the way that the class is going to break down is what we're going to do is it's going to kind of break into truck and engine, and you'll get we use truck and engine as just a way to break our classes or break our scenario stuff. On the truck side, what you're going to do is we're going to go over some ventilation, whether it's, OV horizontal ventilation, vertical ventilation, different types of ventilation that we have, and then forcible entry. And then on our engine side, we're going to work on moving hand lines, flowing as we're going, doing things in short staff situation, and also searching. So the searching is going to be part of the engine because, like we talked about, if I'm short staffed, that line needs to get in place, but I also need to search. So how can I do two things at once? My search team can supplement my engine, so on and so forth. So the way that the class is going to be structured in the morning, it's going to be all about reps, right? You took one of our fireground classes.
It was intense. It was great.
Yep.
The
morning's all about reps, right? We just want to get as many reps in as we can. We want to get people comfortable because that's the great thing. We talked about this earlier. We have people that show up to our classes that this may be the second time they ever put on an SCBA. And we're going to make sure as instructors, we identify that and we take time and make sure, okay, hey, baby steps here. Let's make sure you're comfortable in this SCBA. Let's make sure you're comfortable with certain things. Let's go with, we're going to do the crawl, walk, run method. We're not just going to throw you into a black room and say, hey, go put out the fire. We're going to do different things that are going to make things a little easier on you and bring you along at your pace. We don't ever want to put someone in a situation that they're not comfortable in. But also with that is with the truck stuff, when we're working with forcible entry, we're also going to work on some water can stuff because that's another thing that we don't, as a fire service, use a whole lot of.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. Have not used a
2.5 gallon water can with little foam in it can go a long ways. And so we're going to get reps on that too. And then in the afternoon, we're going to do the Valor Fire thing, man. We're just going to do some full-fledged scenarios with probably Melon running around in his underwear. I never get him to stop doing that.
Somebody's got to bring it up every time. It wasn't me this time.
Every time. But no, and then we're going to run scenarios. It's going to be all about reps again. But when we run these scenarios, it's not going to be, hey, you have 25 guys on this fire. It's going to be, hey, you have 6 people and your mutual aid is 15 minutes away. So it's going to be, it's going to be intense. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a long day. But the one thing, when you show up, you're going to get some work in and hopefully you're going to take stuff out of it. So one thing that we kind of pride ourselves on with our classes is that we make sure we cater to our students. So we make sure that they're having, that they're not putting themselves in any situation that they don't want to necessarily be in. And the other nice thing is we allow our students to kind of push themselves a little farther because as instructors, we make sure that we are between the issue and the solution the whole time. We always have an instructor with whichever crews are going in, and that instructor is out in front of them. He's not back behind them, tailing behind, letting them absorb all the heat. That instructor knows exactly what is going on as far as the heat levels. He's got a thermal imager. He's got an eye on the crew. He's got an eye on the conditions. And then we also have backup team of instructors that are sitting on a check line at the fire that at a moment's notice, they can knock it down. So we allow realistic training, but it's also safe. That's one of the biggest things that we pride ourselves on. So, and you took our class. I mean, we can get pretty realistic with how we do our live burns and stuff like that. So, and while you're doing all that, you've got actual heat, actual smoke, actual fire, and you're rescuing victims. You're throwing ladders.
Actually rescuing. It's great.
Yep. So, and the victims that you're dragging, we use the Ruth Lee mannequins. If anybody's ever interested in those, we talked about Rescue Randy. The Ruth Lee mannequins are outstanding because they're pliable. They bend really well. You can lube them up with soap. They're about as close to an unconscious person as you can get. But what's one thing with our mannequins, Taylor? What do we do when we have all of our mannequins? They don't have harnesses on them, right?
Oh, geez. I was like, what are you talking about? What do you get? It was so general. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
There's so many things. No, 0 harnesses. Because what victim do you come up on that has harnesses attached already? But
what do all of our victims have on them? Clothes, right?
Oh, geez. My goodness. See, you gotta give me something else because I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of something very, very specific. Okay.
They've got knives. They're trying to attack us.
So you should do body cams on them.
Yeah. So we make sure that we take our victims and we put them in actual clothes. So, we put them in clothes so that you're not just grabbing a a dummy that has nothing on it. We want to give you that realistic feel with clothes on it, because we teach some different ways to drag with clothes. We teach some different ways to utilize what that victim is giving you to help get them out of that area.
Well,
so
if you can't grab onto their skin, if they are burned that bad or whatnot, you might be able to get a handle on what they're wearing. I mean, let be really easy. Let's say you have a scenario with a farmer that's wearing overalls. I mean, there's some loops right there for getting
exactly. And that's one thing that we focus on, is we make sure that, that's not necessarily taught in our basic beginner classes, but we make sure, hey, they're giving you these tools. There's a method that I teach that you take the back of their shirt, you reach down, you pull the bottom of the shirt, and you pull it up through the top, and you just made a harness on them. You just made a nice little hasty harness on them, and you just drag them out with their shirt. It protects their head. It cinches up around their arms. That's another one. I've had guys at my firehouse dragging me around the bay floor with that, kind of teaching them that.
That's such a good idea. I haven't heard of that before.
So like, we're going to do that. We're going to teach you different ways to utilize what that person's giving you. If we come across a victim in a bedroom and they're a relatively large victim, take the sheet off the bed, throw the sheet on the ground, roll them onto it, and drag them in the sheet. So we make sure that we do
cheating.
No, it's not
getting the job done.
Nope. It doesn't matter how you get them out. You just got to get them out. So, and what our goal is to give you all those resources to do it in a realistic manner, and, also do it under live conditions. So,
yeah. And I've seen, I have been a beginner in the class, but I've seen other beginners in the classes. I've seen intermediates, and I've seen chiefs going and taking this class.
Yeah.
Or not specifically this one, but other classes that Valor's done. And they've all been quality. And from what I understand, everyone keeps coming back.
Yeah.
So
we're lucky that we really don't have to fight to get people to come to our classes, and that's kind of that's not a testament to us by any means. That's testament to the people that are taking time out of their day to come better themselves. And luckily, we're just the carrier of that we get to go out and we get to train with people. Because at the end of the day, I say this all the time, is we're not here to teach at you. We're here to learn with you, because there are certain things that we do that we present. Hey, this is a way that you can do this. Let's do this. And then we see someone doing something else, or I see someone that's struggling that way, but just seeing them do that, I learn that, hey, maybe try this. And if they do that, it's like, well, I never tried that before. You're the first one that did that, and that works pretty good. It's like, we're going to implement that. So we're there to learn with you. That's the greatest thing about doing this and getting travel all over, is that we get to learn every single time. There hasn't been a single class that we've been at teaching where I don't walk away with just a exploded brain full of different stuff, different tips and tricks that I learned. So
that's awesome. No, I'm excited to come out and see it. And I mean, if people can't make it to this one, or if this podcast comes out too late, I mean, it seems like at least a couple times a year, Valor's up in Nebraska doing something.
Yeah. So we try to make sure that we get up here at least. So the reason we do it in Osceola, I'm from Osceola. I kind of am doing all the Nebraska Valor stuff, so all the scheduling and that kind of thing. But we've got a pretty realistic burn facility here. We've got it outfitted with, a bedroom that has carpet in it and clothes and all sorts of stuff. So we try and make it as realistic as possible. But that's not saying if your department wants a training, reach out to us. We're more than happy to come out. We travel, sign that says we'll travel to train. We love getting out, and we love doing that kind of stuff. So we've got some things in the works for Nebraska and for the Midwest coming up in 2022. 2022 is going to be a busy year for us. COVID kind of put a strain on everything in public health. So we're starting to return to some normalcy, or as normal as it's ever going to be. So moving forward, hopefully we can get some things done and get some more class offerings out there for people, because it's something that we talked about. Outside classes are something that can always intrigue someone. And you bring in different views on things, and our cadre that we have is from all over the Midwest. We've got guys from, myself up in Nebraska to down in Texas, and, pretty much all over the Midwest. We've got guys that they operate in different geographical areas, and different geographical areas equals different tactics sometimes. So you get a little bit of everything. So.
Awesome. All right. We're going to jump into kind of a last little thing that's very different, but I really like getting the viewpoints on this from everyone I talk to. So I kind of want to get into family life, if you're all right with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, I guess first of all, did you go through an academy?
Yeah, so ours is a little different where I'm at, because we're not hiring huge, massive numbers. Usually we have one or two openings, and then you take those two guys and through. So like my academy, I went for 6 weeks, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And in that time, you do, whether you have your firefighter one or not, you go through firefighter one, you go through firefighter two. You kind of get familiarized with the crews, you go through department specific training, all that kind of stuff. Now that academy can be extended if you're struggling with certain things. We're going to make sure that we take the time to get this person set up for success. We're going to spend a little more time up front on the front end so that we're not correcting a whole bunch of things on the back end. So mine was about 6 weeks of Monday through Friday. And that was, I was working private ambulance before that. So prior I was doing the 24-hour shifts for about a year.
Okay.
Going back to a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 sucked. And I was just, the worst thing about it was I was just starting paramedic school. I was like 2 months into paramedic school, and I said that I had a 40-week paramedic school. So that was high stress. So I'd go to my new job and do 8 to 5, and then I'd come home, eat. My daughter was not very old. She'd have been a little under a year. So about 9 months. So still needs a lot of attention.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd come home, I'd eat, I'd work on paramedic stuff for 3-4 hours. I'd go to bed at 11 o'clock midnight, and then I'd get up and I'd leave my house at 5 o'clock and be right back at it the next day for 5 days. And then I get to the weekend and I was able to have a little breather. The one godsend I had was my academy kind of ran over Thanksgiving break. So Thanksgiving. So with City Hall and everything being closed, I got a couple of days off in there to kind of help catch up on things. But that was tough, going from doing shift work to going to an academy. That throws a wrench in your family life. And if I didn't have a solid foundation with my wife and my family and everything, it would have been impossible. Because that's one thing people don't realize is the fire service is when you start, it's just not like every office job where it's like, hey, be here at 8, we'll sign some papers. You show up and your first day, yeah, you go sign some papers. And then it's every day from Monday through Friday. You're there, you're learning, you're beating yourself up, you're working hard, you're getting workouts in, you're coming home, you're exhausted. And the light at the end of the tunnel is a 24-hour shift with 2 days off. And that's for some people that don't understand that. When they ask us like, hey, when do you work? It's like, tomorrow, 7 a.m. It's like, oh, cool. You gonna be home tomorrow night?
No,
I won't. It's like, I work 24 hours. And finally, my friends understand that now. For the longest time, I'd go to work and they'd text me at like 8 o'clock. It's like, hey, are you home? It's like, no, I'm not home. It's like, I won't be home until tomorrow. But it's a big change. You have to have, this is something where you can't do it on your own. You have to have a support system. You have to have family. Me and my wife are extremely lucky. We live where all of our grandparents, all of our parents live. So there's times and some other people might not know about this, but fire departments, we have mandatory overtime. We have mandatory holdover where we have a minimum staffing level that has to be met. And if too many people call in sick or are gone and nobody volunteers to take the overtime and it's your turn, you get stuck. So there's been times where we've had stuff planned. I've been getting ready to go home and, hey, you got to stay today. You don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be there for the people. Right. So my wife is a saint just for that alone, because that's the one thing with mandatory overtime is it never happens when it's convenient.
Oh no.
And it's always you get all this stuff with family life and it all seems like it all stacks up, right? It stacks. And then you have that. And then it's just a big breaking point. And, it's one of those things where if you didn't have a solid foundation going into it and you don't have good relationships, it could easily fall apart. That's why the divorce rate in fire service is so high, because we're gone. That's one thing. And this, when like my wife, she knows for my working life, I'm going to be gone a third of our personal life. So I'm going to miss a third of my kids' lives for the next 30 years. I'm going to miss a third of my marriage life with my wife. And that's the norm. That's what the fire service is. That doesn't matter if you work a 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 24 off, and then, you have 8 days off, or you work a 24, 48. At the end of the day, you're gone a third of the time.
Yeah.
And that sucks. like I said, I can't give my wife enough credit. We've got 2 little ones right now, and she is a rock star. She manages them like you wouldn't believe. She, she gets them into bed and everything, and she goes out and, when I'm home, she'll go out with her sisters or do something like that. And I've got the 2 little ones, and it's just like, how do you do this? But no, I mean, you have to have a good support system. You have to have family. And the other thing, and I can speak to my marriage, when you're going through the fire service, when you're trying to get things out, there's going to be bumps, there's going to be rocky roads, because it's new, it's different. Working 24 hours a day is not normal, right? That's not what normal people do. And we're not normal people. We're all kind of messed up in the head a little bit. But one of the biggest things is you have to make sure that you take time with work to take care of yourself, but you also have to take care of your relationships. Because if you're on a 24-hour shift, so we run 24/48, and I get my butt kicked for 24 hours, there's times where I come home and my first 24 hours off, I do nothing but sleep and mope around the house and dog ass tired. And then the next day I might have a little energy and I'd try to do some other stuff. And then I want to go to bed early because I have to go back to work. That's not fair. That's not fair to my wife, because, she's not only taking care of the kids a third of the time all by herself, but then that other time I'm tired. I just want to sleep. It sucks. So having that understanding and being able to take care of yourself to be able to take care of a relationship is another thing. So, and then you add kids into the equation, and love my children to death. But sometimes, we get so focused on being parents and take care of them that we kind of forget to take care of ourselves. And, date nights become far few between, and we're lucky enough to where we have parents around to where if we need to, we can drop them off at the kid's house and we can go out to eat, do that kind of stuff. But, in our life, that's hard. It's a thing that unfortunately it kind of takes a back burner. And I think that's a big reason why a lot of marriages kind of fall apart. But you've got to have a good relationship with your part, with your significant others, and really, you really have to work hard at it, because it's not a normal life. It's different. But everybody says being a firefighter is hard, but I would never want to be a firefighter spouse. That's just the cold hard truth about it. It's, our job is mentally tasking. Our job sucks. But, we're essentially, and it sounds bad saying this, but we're escaping, we're not home a third of the time. So that part is we've kind of escaped from that for a third of the time, right? There's times where, you're trying to deal with some home issues when you're at work and everything. But at the end of the day, and my wife, she's, like I said, she's a saint. She understands that when I'm at work, she wants my head to be at work. She wants me to be in the right mindset, because if I've got 1,000 things going through my head and I'm not on my game at work, that's where accidents happen. And that's where my life, I can potentially do something that's going to affect my life. And at the end of the day, all of our goal is to come home. All of our goals is to come home to our family. Our goal is to make have a long, healthy career and have a nice, long, healthy retirement. So none of us want to work for 30 years and be so busted and broken that we can't enjoy retirement. So, I'm by no means, someone who can sit and preach to you about family life, because I'm a human. I make mistakes. We all make mistakes and everything. And unfortunately, sometimes you just have to step back and realize, we get so drawn into the job. We get so drawn into everything with the job, whether it's trainings. I find myself at home all the time, we'll sit there and I'll have my phone out and I'll be scrolling through and I'll find something, and it's a video, a fire video or something like that, training video. And I'll sit there and watch it. And then I'll look up and my wife will be staring at me. And it's like, yeah, I need to put my phone down. So the best advice I can give to myself and to everybody is, when you're at work, be at work. When you're at home, be at home. And that's never going to be an easy thing to make sure that you're keeping apart, because they always mesh, they always come together. But it's you got to have a good support system, and you got to be honest. You can't hide things with work and that, because like my wife, she reads right through that bullshit. If I have a bad day at work and I come home, and she can tell. So, but she does a great job of giving me my, there's times where we need space, as, we see a lot of unfortunate things in our job. Sometimes some of us deal with stuff differently. Sometimes we want to talk. Sometimes we just want our space. So, through trial and error, we've kind of figured out what works for us and what doesn't. But at the end of the day, you're not good to anybody else if you don't take care of yourself. So you gotta make sure that your mental health is in a good place. And then you also need to make sure that your spouses and your children's mental health is in a good place, because they're missing a huge part of their life when you're gone. So
No, I went into quite a bit of a spiral almost on an episode of a few episodes ago now. It meant to be just a quick little update on how things were going, and it spiraled into a full-blown episode of me just kind of like realizing everything as I'm recording, like how bad I was actually taking everything and how hard it was to make that switch in going into this full-time, for lack of better words, fire wife kind of life thing, you know. And just
absolutely,
I was like, oh, I'll be fine, I'll be prepared, I know this stuff, I'm a firefighter too, it's just, you know, it's gonna be a little different, but it's gonna be the same stuff, and it's something completely different than I ever imagined. And it's hard to have somebody try to explain that to you. You won't get it until you're in it.
Yeah, it is. It's a totally different thing. And the other thing that you don't get, and people don't realize this, is when you get into that fire, you know, when you get into it and you join, it's your family now, right?
Mhm.
Your fire family. So like when I go to work, my captain, my firefighters on my shift, the other paramedics I work with, they know my wife, they know my kids. They ask how things are going. The guys that I'm off duty with, that I know on a personal basis, there's not one of us that if I'm on duty and let's say all of a sudden my wife calls me and says, hey, our water heater is, you know, something broke.
Yeah.
I can call one of those guys off duty and say, hey, dude, can you run over to my house? And I live 45 minutes from where I work. And there's not one of them that wouldn't say, yeah, I'll be over there in a little bit. It's like, give me a little bit. And that's like, I'll get over there. So we all look out after each other. We all take care of each other. And there's not many industries outside of, you know, the military and police department and stuff that families kind of bond like that. So that is one blessing that we do have, is that you kind of marry into this bigger family, this bigger dysfunctional family, but
very dysfunctional at times.
Yeah. And I'll be completely honest. Like one thing that I don't know if benefit is the word, but I started my children, this is all they know, right? Because they're little. That's all they're ever going to know, is that dad's going to be gone a third of the time. So that's normal for them. Is that fair to them? No, not necessarily, but that's normal to them. So it's not like, I can't imagine how it is if you had school age children where you're home every single night and then all of a sudden you're gone, and that's new to them. They're trying to learn, they're trying to comprehend a bunch of things. And now you're taking yourself out of their life for a third of the time. We're lucky to be in today's day and age with about every single night I call home and we're video chat. You know, I'm on FaceTime, I'm on Messenger with them, and they're able to see me. It's kind of fun. You take the phone out into the truck bay, you show them the fire trucks. You know, my daughter loves it every single time. Her eyes light up just like my eyes did. But it's that, and that's kind of how we, you know, we're lucky that we live in this day and age of all this technology, that we can sit and we can talk about this kind of stuff, and we can be part of our kids' lives even when we're not there. You know, you talked about covering high school sports and all that. One of the things now is about any high school sport event is streamed, right? I can get online, I can watch it. So that's been a huge thing. I had younger brothers that were, one's playing college ball right now. And like just last night I was on duty and I was able to get on my phone and watch them play. So I'm not able to be there, but I am able to be there at the same point in time because I'm able to watch and play. I'm able to text them after the game and say, hey, good game, man, and talk about that. And the same thing with your kids. You're able to be there for some moments that you don't necessarily, you know, 10, 15 years ago, you would have had no clue how Christmas went if you were working on Christmas. You would have had no, you know, you're there. You're not there, but you're there, and you're able to be there and watch virtually, and you're able to kind of talk back and forth. And like I said, it's unfortunate, but it's fortunate at the same time. This is all my kids are, you know, this is all they're ever going to know is dad, you know, dad's gone a third of the time, and that's part of dad's job. So it's a bigger task on your family than it is on you. But that's what you have to be up front. You have to talk about things before you just go in and start applying for a job like this, because if you're not on the same page, it'll tear a family apart. So, and that's the unfortunate thing about it. So
I think like a lot of the important thing is, as soon as I start having problems with anything, I talk to Chris like extremely in depth right away. And if I would have waited, like I know a lot of women do, because, you know, it's the way our brains are wired. It is.
Yeah.
It could have ended up being something a little blown way out of proportion that didn't need to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
So
Well, and it is stressful. I mean, I like I said, I can't imagine being in your guys' shoes. I can't imagine, having to deal with all that, of you're not, and I hope my wife worries about me when I'm gone. But you're the only one home.
yeah,
So you're worried about taking care of the children, you're worried about taking care of yourselves, but then you also have this giant black cloud above your head with that my husband is doing the most dangerous job that there is,
yeah, and
right?
who knows when he's gonna
Yep.
have this call that could have something happen. And
Yep, exactly. And it's not just physical harm that we get ourselves into, is we can get ourselves into a lot of mental harm too.
mhm.
One of the great things that's happening right now, kind of in the fire service, is the mental health is moving to the forefront. So just because we may look all right on the outside, sometimes some of us are fighting some demons inside. So being able to have a route to talk about that, there's all sorts of places out there that you can go and talk to, hotlines and that kind of stuff. Because like I said a little bit ago, you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. So,
Mhm.
and you being in a bad place is also putting your significant other in a bad place, because then they're worried about you and all that. So it's definitely, it's not teamwork. It's more than teamwork, because it's something that it's not for everybody, but I mean, God bless the people that do it. And it's like I said, I could never be a significant other of a firefighter, or firefighter, cop, military, whatever it is, where you're gone for long amounts of time.
Yeah.
So it's it takes a special kind of person, that's for certain.
Awesome. Is there anything else, I guess, you want to touch on, or anything else you want to bring up?
No, I don't think so. I
All
think
right.
we covered a lot of stuff. Like I said, I could sit here and talk all day all day to you about this kind of stuff. But
Oh, I do have one more question. Okay, so when you were doing your 24-hour shifts, were you with your wife at that point at all when you first started doing that, or not?
yeah,
Or
yeah. So
well, overall, the main question, I guess, is I was kind of wondering how long it took you to get into the groove of just things finally starting to run smoothly slash get used to things changing.
okay. So when we first got married, I was working for a electrical engineering company. So that's what my college degree is in. So
Okay.
I was working an 8 to 5 when we first got married. I did that for the first 16. I did that for the first about a year of our marriage. Then I worked for a private ambulance company. And when I was doing that, we were working 24s, but I just worked 2 24s a week. So I worked 48 hours a week. So there's no set schedule. I just worked. Normally I worked a 48. So I'd work like Monday, Tuesday, and then I'd be off until the following Monday. So we didn't have any kids at that point in time. When Brian got pregnant, no, we did have, I'm sorry, jeepers. We had Brandy. Yep. Brand was pregnant when I was working at my other job. We had Kendall. And then when Kendall was like 2 months old, I started the 24s. I started that ambulance job. So I would be gone. So Brand's home with a 2-month-old baby, and I'd be gone for 2 days at a time, and then I'd come home. But it kind of took care of itself, because I'd be gone for the 2 days, but then I'd be home for 5 in a row.
Okay.
So that year that I was doing that, it really wasn't, there was really no way to get into a rhythm, right? Because my schedule was so wishy-washy. There'd be times where I'd work on Monday, Friday. It just pretty much whenever I needed to work, I'd work. So when I started on the fire department and we got into a set routine, a set schedule, it probably took a good year to get that
Okay.
down and everything. And I'd still say it takes time, because there's certain things that we want to try and do, and I might be working, or something might come up and, hey, I'm working. Like yesterday, I missed my kid's parent teacher conference because I was on duty. So Brand had to go go do it by herself and everything. And we were able to talk about it afterwards. But there's going to be stuff that you miss like that. So I don't know if we'll ever be totally like comfortable or in a groove, as you say.
Mhm.
But we do have things figured out. And the great thing, so a lot of people don't know this about the fire service, but one of the things that is big is work exchanges and trade time and flip-flops. Is I
Yeah.
can work for somebody on a day and they can bank it and they can work back for me. It doesn't affect our pay or anything. It's just a trade. So if I need days off, and like I said, it's a big brotherhood, big sisterhood. I've had stuff come up night before, and I've called someone and said, "Hey man, can you work for me tomorrow?" Or, "Hey, can you work a couple hours for me tomorrow?" And yeah, absolutely. So that's a big thing. But we're in a routine. We have a routine. And when I say we, I mean Brian has a routine.
Mhm.
She takes care, she's in a routine with stuff. And it's funny because sometimes, if you got a big stretch of days off, like vacation or trade time and stuff like that, there's been times where, and all of us, and anybody that listens to this, you'll probably chuckle, but at some point in time, your wife's like, "All right, when are you going back to work? Because you're really throwing, it's like, you're really throwing things off right now." But it's like, you've been home for 2 weeks. It's like, you need to go back to work.
Oh
but
man.
but no, and it's a weird thing. And I mean, you probably know this when your husband's when he's on shift, those days when we're on shift are kind of the days where, like, Brand has certain TV shows that I just cannot stand watching. That's the nights that she watches those TV shows. And,
Oh, perfect.
and so you find little quirky things that you do
That's where
when
I
you're
throw in
not
all the
together.
horror flicks and everything
Yeah.
and stuff just crisp. Yeah, I just can't stand,
Yep. Yep. You find little quirky things that you do here and there, but at the end of the day, you got to have good communication with it. And like I said, I am nobody to be sitting here telling people how to do it, because we're still trying to figure it out ourselves. But I can say that we've had some I've had some hard lessons with that kind of stuff. And it's one of those things where if you don't have a good support system, it's destined to fail. And you have to talk about that kind of stuff. You have to stay ahead of all these things, because it's one of those things where, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there can turn into a big issue next thing you know. And it's like, all at once, it's like, well, where the hell did this come from? And then you start looking back and it's like, oh yeah, there it is. It's like a little bit here, a little bit there. So
no, thank you, because that was 100% purely selfish with that whole last section. But I want to know more about it. I want to get other people's perspectives, because there are other people who know more than me. And then even if somebody has been married less than me, or even if it gets to the point where I have kids and they don't, or whatever, they may have some insight or something they do that I might find golden and want to implement for myself. And hopefully this helps somebody out there listening too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hear everyone's perspective on how they deal with everything.
Yeah. I mean, and that's one thing. Like I said, I'm nobody when it comes to that, but at the end of the day, each of us can give a little tidbit here and there, and we can all learn something from people's successes and people's struggles. I'm one that I learn more from my personal struggles than I do from my personal successes. So unfortunately, sometimes those struggles affect the family life and that kind of stuff, but you kind of sit back and you learn, it's like, okay, that was stupid. Let's try and not do that. It's like, let's try and not accidentally put yourself on a 72-hour shift. And
Oh, ouch.
So, I mean,
yikes.
Those are
you
the kind
worth anything at the end of that?
No, not at all.
Oh.
You're just on survival mode.
I couldn't imagine.
But so it's one of those things where you just gotta be honest, you gotta be upfront and talk about those kind of things and try and stay ahead of them. Because I'll tell you, the worst feeling as like someone in my role is making that call at 7 a.m. that, hey, I got stuck and I'm not coming home tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I said, that never happens when it's supposed to happen. It always happens with babysitters closed for the day. And well, I'm staying home until 8 o'clock until it's like, you're supposed to be home so you can watch the kids so I can get to work. And it never happens that way. And so that's where you have to have a good support system. And like I said, we're lucky to where we live, where we've got grandparents and great grands and plenty of, if stuff like that happens, Brandy usually can call someone and someone is able to watch our kids. So it's not fair to them. It's not fair to the kids. You can sit and argue it's not fair to us, but at the end of the day, it's what we signed up for. And it's a weird industry. It's totally different, but it's by far the most rewarding career that you can have. So
I don't think I've ever met a firefighter who did this for a pay, right? That ever regretted going and making that decision.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yep. It's one of those things you sit down, you talk to guys that are retired and they talk about how much they miss it. And, you miss that kitchen table time. You miss that time with your brothers and sisters at the firehouse. Cause it's truly a unique bond. It's one of the few industries where, my best friends are people that I work with. And so, I work with them and then I hang out with them. And obviously I have my friends and everything. I have good friends back home. But when you're in arms going into God knows what, you kind of have a little different perspective on things as far as friendship goes and all that. So it's a totally different, wacky, weird industry career that you don't understand unless you're in it. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it was great having you on. If people want to reach out to you, how can they do that?
Yeah, so you can get a hold of me on Facebook, Logan Watts. I'm usually pretty good about answering messages. And then, you can email me. You can reach out to me and we can, kind of discuss some different ways that you can contact me. So email is logan.watts@gmail.com. And any of those, like backing up, kind of pitching Valor, any of those things, if you have class stuff that you want information on, feel free to reach out to us on our Valor Fire page, reach out to me personally, and we'll get you that information. So we're not out here to make a buck or do stuff like that. We try and keep our costs as low as possible. What we do is when we have our classes, what you pay includes your lunch, your dinner, all your stuff. Everything. When you show up, you're taken care of, you're eating a good meal. And then that also includes all the material that we have to purchase to make sure that we can provide you a good class, because the last thing we want is we don't want you to show up to one of our classes and walk away disappointed. We want you to show up to one of our classes and walk away like, holy crap, that was fun. So,
and they are worth it. They are well worth it.
But no, you can feel free to reach out to me at any point in time. I like making different connections and networking with all sorts of people. So it's just one way that we keep our little circle and our little world growing. So
yes. Oh my goodness. All right. This has been fun. Thank you so much. And everyone listening, I will talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming by and listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a rating and review wherever you're listening. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram @CouplingsFire Podcast. See you next time, everybody.